Hi. So I just finished my Nitrox certification, and I promised to tell you a little about it. So basically, Nitrox is a gas mixture used for diving that has an oxygen percentage over 21. So as I said, you can have different amounts of oxygen in your cylinder. The most common one is 32% oxygen. So the reason why we dive with Nitrox is because by putting in more oxygen you have less nitrogen, which means you can dive for longer and you'll have to stay on the boat for a shorter amount of time because you get less nitrogen in your body, which is the cause for decompression sickness. So this is a good thing. The downside to Nitrox is you cannot dive as deep. This is because of something I'll talk to you about in a moment, something called partial pressure O2. So partial pressure is when you take an amount of gas and compress it. You have been taught this already when you took your first dive certification, but for example, when you dive with normal air, at surface level, your intake of oxygen is 21, but as you dive down, let's say to 10 meters, the gas is compressed. So when you take a breath of air, it's compressed down to such a degree that you'll actually inhale 42 units of oxygen, and of course you have an equal amount of nitrogen. This is why we are limited to certain depths, because the further you go down, let's say 20 meters, your oxygen intake per breath is 63. At 30 meters it's 84, and at 40 meters, which is our maximum depth on air, not on Nitrox, you will have a partial pressure of oxygen of 1.05. So you're breathing more than double the amount of gas that you'll do on the surface. This is also what brings us into the problem with Nitrox, because let's say we have a Nitrox mixture of 32, that means 32% oxygen, 68% nitrogen. That's very fine, but as we go down to 10 meters on normal air, you will have a oxygen percentage of 42. However, on nitrogen, this increases to 64. This is what we call the partial pressure of oxygen, and the problem arises because the deeper you go, the higher the oxygen intake will be, and when you go down to 30 meters, your partial pressure will be up to 1.28. This is very close to the absolute maximum amount that the body can take. After that, you'll start to get oxygen intoxication. To talk about oxygen intoxication, on the surface it's not dangerous, it's not harmful to you. You'll start to feel a little drunk when you get too much oxygen in your body, and if you continue breathing oxygen, at some point you'll pass out. The body will just relax, you'll breathe normally, you'll wake up, it won't harm you, you won't even have any hangovers. So nothing bad in that. Oxygen is healthy for you. The problem is if you are at a depth of, let's say, 30 meters, and you start to feel a little drunk. If you don't react immediately, you risk passing out. The problem is underwater, the body just goes into a rest mode. You'll probably lose your second stage, your regulator, and the body will start to breathe normally because it doesn't know it's underwater. And this is the very biggest problem with pure oxygen. So partial pressure basically limits the maximum depth you can go to, also called MOD, maximum operational depth. The highest tolerance for oxygen underwater is 1.4, at which point you must turn around. And at a Nitrox of 32, this means your absolute maximum operational depth will be 33.7 meters, and you can only stay there for a very short amount of time. So Nitrox, it's a good gas blend to have because you can stay in the water for very long compared to normal air. However, there is some risks that you need to know, and especially the thing about partial pressure is quite important because, as I said before, when you go in the water, the air compresses, so with every breath you fill your lungs with more oxygen and more nitrogen. So in conclusion, nitrogen is good, especially for recreational diving. If you're on a dive boat, you dive 4-5 times a day. You don't reach your deco limit because you probably won't go that deep. You will have some very short surface intervals because of the nitrox. And when you go to tourist places, nitrox is usually free. The only thing you of course need to do when you dive nitrox is you have your computer. So you need to analyze your gas. You put that number into your computer. In most cases, again, it'll be 32. It can be 31, it can be 30. So always analyze your cylinders each time you use it. You put it into your computer and you're good to go. The computer will know your new decompression limits. If you do not know the nitrox level in your cylinder, the best thing you can do, set your computer to 21 and dive carefully. That way you at least know you are in a safe zone to avoid a decompression sickness. So that is basically what nitrox is. Very simple, very easy. You can take a certificate. It will take less than 1 day to complete from start to end. You don't even have to go dive to learn about nitrox and do the certification. All you need to know is the risks and the good and the bads about nitrox. So that's about it. Bye.